وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Some years ago, I was at a funeral, a janazah, who was the deceased, family members, etc. None of that is important right now. What's important is that I was at the janazah, and there was an older brother there. I believe he was a family member, close relative, standing around the grave, about to lower the deceased into the ground, pour the dirt on top of him, and all of a sudden he lost control. He start crying, start bawling, as we say, pouring out. Big dude, big guy, start crying. So, people, they try to offer their support, hug, rub on the back, etc. Mashallah, be patient, etc., 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 etc. So, as he was breaking down, he's like, trying to get his words together, and he's saying, like, this has to stop. Enough is enough. It's not okay anymore. It's not cool anymore. Right now, right here, this has to stop. This has to be the last young teenager that we bury from our families and our communities. I've had enough. I was tired of it then. I'm tired of it now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the topic, life or death, crime rate, murder, our city, the city of brotherly love, city of gunplay, among many other cities, but Philly, we know our city. It reminds me of this story, or this encounter. And I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, no matter how sad it is, and mashallah, it's messed up, blah, blah, I'm saying to myself, like, listen, you and I both know that it's not going to stop right here. You and I both know that. That this isn't the last time, and only Allah knows in most cases it's going to be another torn family, broken heart, shattered heart, etc. Why am I saying this? Is this insensitive or cruel? Was it my son, my brother, my cousin, my father, my relative, my homie that, lost his life through gun violence, through gunplay, right? The reason why I say that is because no matter how sad this brother was and upset, his reasons for it having to stop, it has to stop, are wrong. Wrong reasons. It shouldn't stop, it can't stop just because it's you and your turn on the ride now. You had to wait in line like everybody else. Make sure you're tall enough to get on the ride. They strap you down. You have 30 seconds or 120 seconds of fun. Then you get off the ride. Some people choose to get on the ride a second time. Some people go to another ride in an amusement park. But just because it's your turn on the ride, you can't now say it's a bad amusement park. It's a corny ride, or it's a messed up ride. I paid too much for this ticket, for this band, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Got to be something different now. It has to stop. It's not okay. It's not cool for anybody to feel this pain and this suffering. It's not okay. It's not cool because killing, because murder, because playing with guns, trying to be a gangster, so on and so forth, it just isn't the way for both Muslim and non-Muslim. So the mindset that is only wrong and evil because it's happening to me. It's only wrong and evil because it hurts. It's only wrong and evil because so on and so forth. Everybody get the point I'm trying to make? And once we change our mindsets, our minds, then bi'idhnillah, by Allah's permission, we have the ability to make some type of realistic change in society. Your brain, how you think about stuff. I could do it and get away with it, so therefore I'm going to do it. I can do it and get away with it, but I'm not going to do it. Big difference. You're playing a game. The game isn't a cool game to play. Let me stop, quit while I'm ahead, versus I'm caught, I had to stop. It's not the same. Me turning the other cheek, quote unquote, holding back my anger, suppressing my anger, not taking revenge. You do something wrong to me. Even though if I wanted to, I could just do whatever I want, go crazy on you. I'm stronger, faster, quicker, I got a bigger thing, whatever the issue is. But it's all good. It's cool. I'm going to walk off, bismillah, no problem. That's not the same as the one who humbles himself and says, oh, let me be peaceful, let me walk away, let me, squash this because you're really scared. Or you can't beat him. Or whatever the reason. But you're not stopping because you feel the need to stop. You're only squashing the situation. Let's make up, let's hug, let's make peace because I know that there's a big problem dealing with you, or I'm scared of you, or you're more ruthless than me. That's not the same as a person who was a killer saying, look, it's done, it's over. There's no more vendettas. It's my turn to strike back. It's my turn to take revenge, but you know what? It's all right. So as long as we keep thinking backwards in the same manner, is that it's bad because it happened to me. It's not okay because it happened to me. It's not okay because it happened to us. We're going to keep suffering from the same thing. Like racism, something that plagues our society, plagues our city, maybe even plague this masjid. Wherever you go, many people, they say, oh, don't treat him like that. He's a good one. He's a Muslim. Versus you shouldn't be looking at someone sideways and crooked because of their appearance, period. From the color of their skin. Or he's a good one. He's a righteous one. Or there's some good, well, let's say it could be black, white, purple. I'm not caught up on none of that nonsense. Not me. And it is nonsense at the end of the day. So we can just make an example. Black people that say, oh no, there are some really good black people. When I was in Philadelphia, some of the black people, they helped me out. One day I was on the side of the road and the black guy, he stopped his car. The white people kept driving. No, you can't be racist. You can't show prejudice to black people because it's wrong, period. Not because there's some good ones. You get the mindset I'm trying to, it's just not okay. Or white or red or yellow. He's a good white person. There's a positive white one. He's different. No, you can't treat or deal with nobody based off of your pre-assumptions. That's the evil. That's the wrong. Change that. And then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, in time, and other people start thinking like you, then you can actually turn and change something, a notch or two of society, and society has changed. Okay, so I just, this is food for thought. I was just thinking like, that's messed up, man. Like, why didn't you speak out against gunplay before your son was killed? Was it wrong then? Was it bad then? Or it was none of my business. Don't concern me. Or that's what them niggas get. They, caught up in their life. No. You got to take a stance. Before it comes knocking on your door, and that's your little young, innocent teenage son, supposedly innocent. Killing, shooting is not cool. Even though my son is going to an Ivy League school, and he's not involved in none of that stuff. It's not all right. And anytime I have the ability to say something, to do something, to take a stance, to help out, it's my civil duty, let alone as a Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us never ever to think about things only when it comes to us. Only when it's our turn. The ride is fun and it's entertaining unless you're on a roller coaster. That's a problem. Secondly is, we both know, or I was saying to myself, Zubair, come closer. You just sit next to me. Secondly is, how long is his pain going to last? And will his pain be translated into actual physical deeds? Is he going to leave the janazah and actually do something about it? Say something about it? Or will it go away and fade away? I'm sad now, a week, 2 weeks, a month, or for the rest of my life, but what are you going to really do about it to change it? So that's another reason why we both know it's not going to be the last janazah through gun violence. We both know that. People aren't speaking up. They're not taking a proper stance. It's fun, it's funny, it's cool, it's this and it's that. It's entertaining, it's appealing. The ride is fun until you're on it. So that's the main lesson, right, that I took away from that janazah, and I think it's very important for this topic. Now, as far as murder, gun violence, life or death, etc., then there are different ways we can look at it. And there are many other issues like this in Islam that have more than one angle or more than one perspective or trajectory. There's هناك جانب يعني روحي وهناك جانب اجتماعي. Okay, like rules of inheritance. Al-Mawarith. When you die, what is done with your wealth, your estate, your property? هناك جانب فقهي. من يرث ما موانع الإرث شروط الإرث إلى آخره. وهناك جانب حسابي. هناك كل ونصف وربع وسدس وثمن etc. So there's the religious aspect, the spiritual aspect, the rules, and then there is the mathematical aspect of inheritance. So you can know all of the ahkam of inheritance, but if you're bad at math, you can't deal with the rules of inheritance. You have to be a good mathematician. You have to be very good with numbers, dividing, subtracting, multiplying, etc., etc. And obviously, math and substitution addition has nothing to do with the legal rulings. And you can be a great mathematician, but if you don't know the fiqh, what Allah says about someone who kills someone to get his estate, someone who has a relative who's of a different faith, someone who only has a half-brother from the mother's side, stepson, stepdaughter, so on and so forth. A man divorcing his wife on his deathbed, he's terminally ill, sick. He's been married to this woman for 30 years. He may have hated her for 30 years. Or maybe didn't have a good relationship for 30 years. He's about to die, and he says, I divorce you 3 times. Khalas. In other words, you're not getting what? Nothing when I go. Is that a legal divorce? Does the woman still get the inheritance or not? You have to know those rulings. And then you bring both of them together, and then you can be, bidhnillahi ta'ala, tusbihu faqihan bi al-mawarith. And the same applies to this topic. There is the Islamic aspect, the spiritual aspect, and then there is the social aspect behind gun violence, behind murdering, behind killing, so on and so forth. Both of them have to be applied together. As far as the Islamic aspect, the spiritual aspect, the most important aspect, then we all know that killing is from the major sins of Islam. Rather, and this is definitely food for thought for those of our youth who are caught up, messed up. When you're involved in murdering someone, killing someone unjustly, without a just cause, self-defense, fighting for the cause of Allah, we know it's not self-defense, and we know it's not fighting for the cause of Allah. You are basically called a kafir. And if you're not actually a kafir, then you're imitating them. As the Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, istansut an-nas. Hadith Jarir, he says, go and tell the people to be quiet and listen. Listen. Hajjat al-Wada. He said, La tarji'u ba'di kufaran yadribu ba'dukum riqaba ba'din. He says, when I leave you, when I go, do not revert to being kuffar, pulling out your swords and hitting each other's necks. La tarji'u ba'di kufaran. Do not become kuffar again after I leave you. How is this? Why is this? Why and how could the Sahaba become kuffar? Are they apostatizing? Are they leaving Islam? Do not be like the kuffar. Do not imitate the kuffar. Do not copy and take the example. Do not idolize the kuffar and their ugly evil deeds. And from that is looking at blood as being extremely cheap and inexpensive. And the smallest, simplest, easiest reason to take someone's life is done. He looked at me the wrong way. He stepped on my shoe. I didn't like the way he was looking at me, or his attitude, whatever. So, pow. Smoke, put it back in the holster. Another notch. Who's next? And that's a long discussion with regards to the influences or influencers of killing and murdering and the messed up mindsets of people who speak out against it. We'll get there, inshallah ta'ala. Who only blame killing just on music or just on the rappers. They're responsible for the killing. No one else, not the movies, not the actors, just the rappers. It's their fault why people are shooting people, etc. That's a problem. And once again, that is like the brother at the janazah crying. He's only thinking about half the solution, and he's not looking at it and attacking it as it should be attacked. Is that killing, murdering isn't okay, even if it's not my son going on the ground today. You understand? But we'll get there. So the Prophet ﷺ, in this authentic hadith, he warns the Sahaba of imitating the kuffar. And there are many texts like this. Many hadiths, let alone ayat, in which Allah Azza wa Jal and the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, they tell us not to do this what the kuffar do. Not to become people of kufr. And the act itself may not be an act of leaving Islam, but it's something that imitates the people of the kuffar, or the people of kufr, and then the title is given to the sinful Muslim. So from the greatest harms of murder and of that type of violence is what hopefully the sound should be good, huh? What's important is, from the greatest harms, min mafasid al-qatl, is that it causes you to imitate the kuffar and the disbelievers, and who wants to do that?
And we all know that the Prophet ﷺ tells us, وَمَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. He says, بُعِثْتُ بِالسَّيْفِ ساعتي حتى يعبد الله وحده لا شريك له وجعل رزقي تحت ظل رمحي وجعلت الذلة والصغار على من خالف أمري ومن تشبه بقوم فهو منهم. You imitate a people, then you're one of those people. So nobody wants to be a kafir. No one wants to be like the kuffar. They do many things that are wrong and evil and vile. But at the top of the list, after shirk and kufr, disbelieving in Allah, associating partners with Allah, worshipping the hayat dunya, is that they kill indiscriminately. They're mindless when it comes to bloodshed. So just stop and think about that. Also, murder, gun violence is a major sign and proof of ultimate stupidity. Supreme stupidity. You have no brains whatsoever. And this is because the Prophet ﷺ tells us that toward the end of time, many things will take place, like we mentioned in the khutbah earlier. And from that is, there will be abundant killing. People won't know why they killed, why they were killed, etc., etc., etc. And the proof or the reason behind this is al-istighfaf. Is that they look down upon killing as such a small, easy, light thing because of their severe ignorance. And that's a general rule of the hadiths that talk about the end of time, that talk about apocalypse, that talk about the last hour being established, Qiyam as-Sa'ah, 9 out of 10 times. Whenever the Messenger of Allah ﷺ says, La taqum as-sa'atu, etc., etc. The hour will not be established until. The day of judgment will not come until. The last day will not arrive until. In most cases when the Prophet speaks like this, the act that he's talking about, or the people, or the dress, it is something which is looked down upon and shunned. The last day will not be established until this happens, and until this returns. And from that is abundant bloodshed, meaning the people's knowledge, their minds, their intellect is at a great low. And that is one of the biggest signs that this world is over, where the people stop thinking. Let alone the other problems that come from that, what's going to happen to you, which is included in the social aspect of the gun violence. We're going to get there. Right now we're just talking about the sins and the spiritual harm that you do to yourself when you get caught up in that lifestyle. اجتنبوا السبع الموبقات, the Prophet ﷺ says, avoid the 7 destructive sins. And of course, from those destructive sins is murder. It's taking someone's life unjustly. Why is it destructive? And how is it destructive? Number one, murder is disrespect to Allah. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who yuhyi wa yumeet. He gives life and He takes that life. When you take someone's life, unless Allah told you to do it and allowed you to do it, you're basically contesting Allah. You're fighting with Allah. And you're trying to show through your physical actions, let alone with your tongue, I also give life and take life. And this is well known. Nimrod and Ibrahim. Ibrahim says, my Lord gives life and death. And he said, I give life and I give death. Bring him in. Execute him. Bring him in. Take him back to the dungeon. See? That arrogance. If I want it, you could be dead. Just like that. All it is nothing but a phone call, not even a phone call, a text message, and you won't seem over it. That's supreme arrogance. And the person thinks and feels is that he holds the keys to life in his hand. And we all know this through many different aspects of pop culture with regards to someone having and thinking and feeling that they have power because the ability to kill indiscriminately. So from the harms of murder and gun violence, and one of the reasons why it's from the Sab'a al-Mubiqat, Ijtanibu Sab'a al-Mubiqat, is that it destroys a person. And the first thing that's going to destroy is his aqeedah, his tawheed, and his iman. The Prophet ﷺ, he tells us, is that the people who will be punished the most severely on the Day of Judgment, al-Musawwirun. يُقَالُ لَهُمْ أَحْيُوا مَا خَلَقْتُمْ. It will be asked of them to give life to their paintings and their sculptures. And of course, they won't have the ability to do it. The Prophet ﷺ says, الَّذِينَ يُطَاعُونَ اللَّهَ فِي خَلْقِهِ. Those who wish to contest and fight with Allah in His sole and exclusive right and ability to create. I also create. This is my creation. So when a person is involved in killing, involved in murdering, he is basically saying, oh Allah, I'm equal with you. You give life to people, you take it, and so do I. And even if a person doesn't say that verbally, even though some people do say that, his actions, what? They clearly prove that. They clearly prove that. Khayr, inshallah. Obviously, there are many ayat in the Quran al-Kareem and hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. We mentioned a few of them that speak about murder and how it is from the most stark qualities of the people of Jahiliyyah. Killing a baby girl, killing your neighbor. And in most cases, Allah says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. In most cases, Allah speaks about murder without talking about the murdered. وَمَنْ قُتِلَ مَظْلُومًا, Allah says, whoever is murdered. And He doesn't say man, He doesn't say woman, He doesn't say Arab or Persian, He doesn't mention Christian or Jew, He doesn't mention learned or unlearned, noble or peasant. But 9 out of 10 times, the most consistent Quranic theme is an-nafs, is a soul. And obviously that leads us to being conscious of humanity. People say this is inhumane. They just started talking like this and speaking like this and classifying human rights and violation of human rights. But everyone shares that thing, and that is a soul. That's a soul. Black, white, yellow, green, purple, they all have souls. So when you start killing people, you start getting involved in that lifestyle and caught up in that lifestyle, it lies no doubt it will destroy you. You're imitating the people of Jahiliyyah. It shows that you look lightly, you look at things lightly, something which is so heavy. And Islam, one of the reasons why people kill is because of racism and prejudice. And that's going to lead us to speaking about the social aspect of murder. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, أَنْ يَحْقِرَ أَخَاهُ الْمُسْلِمِ. It is more than enough sin for you to scorn your Muslim brother. Let's pause this for a second and let's look at history. 9 out of 10 times when there was a major invasion, a major war, the people, they had to justify their invasion. They had to justify taking these people over and colonizing them. And all of the horrors and misfortunes that will take place in a war, let alone invasion. And at the top of the list is, these people are barely human. All of those leaders and dictators and sovereigns, they indoctrinated and brainwashed their soldiers to be desensitized. Don't feel sorry for them. Don't cry. Don't woe. Don't worry about all of the bad things you're going to do, because they're barely what? They're barely human. And if they are human, then lies no doubt their religion, their culture, their language, their civilization is totally inferior to ours. And we're doing them a favor by invading them and conquering them. We're going to kill them, wipe everything clean, and then rebuild in our language. You can't find a war. You can't find a major chapter in the history of war except that this was said. That's a fact. And unfortunately, the Muslims in most cases were not prevented and protected from that. When the Muslims fought each other, when there were different revolts, the Muslims went at each other's necks with their swords. Oftentimes, they looked down upon them and they scorned them. Or the Muslims were being killed by non-Muslims, the Muslims who sat back, who said nothing, who did nothing, let alone allied themselves with the kuffar that were killing them. They turned a blind eye because they felt that those Muslims were inferior. This is what they get anyhow. They're really not, civilized. They're really wild. The same applies to Philadelphia. Is this not the case? If somebody's murdered from a specific ethnic background, they go for help or assistance to another ethnic background, somebody from among them is going to say, well, you guys are always caught up in that stuff. So this is what you get. We can't help you. This is how you guys live. This is what you guys like. This is what you guys are into. As far as me, my people, that would never happen. It's well known. It don't have to be a black, white, Arab type of dynamic. It could be other ethnicities as well. People who kill people, they don't say that. In my neighborhood, this would never happen. We kill people the clean way, the professional way. Right? In our mafia, there's a system to our murder. We're good murderers. But you guys are just savages. You just go in the street, shoot somebody, stab somebody, and that's it. Has this not been said? So the Prophet, he warns us of scorning people, looking down upon people, especially Muslims. And when a person, when they make ihtiqar, they make istighfar. وَإِذَا اسْتَخَفَّ بِهِ دَمُهُ لَا يَخْتَلِفْ عَنْ أي سائل آخر. It's no different than any other type of liquid. Rather, other types of liquid could be more expensive. Gasoline, more than someone's blood pouring from their veins. So this is one of the reasons why murder is a major sin, and one of the reasons why it is a destructive sin, and one of the reasons why it tears and rips apart the fabrics of society. Let's talk about that now, the social aspect. As far as some of the harms of murder from a social aspect, then first and foremost is revenge and a vendetta. A blood feud. Blood feuds never ever end. They kill your cousin, whatever the reason, that's my cousin. So obviously I have to take action. I gotta shoot one of them. It's only right. Even if I know my cousin was wrong, or even if I know it's going to turn into a bigger, a worse problem, but I got the people behind me saying, if you don't do it, then you're such and such. You gotta do it. You have to take revenge. You gotta shoot him. You have to. All right, no problem. I do it. We go, we ride up on him, bang, we shoot him. Then obviously that's another home, another household, crying, tears, someone else with more venom, and the next thing they're going to do what? And then back and forth, back again, until there's no way of repairing and fixing this situation. And we're caught up in a perpetual blood feud. And when the people are always fighting and killing each other, what are they going to do with each other, for each other? It's impossible for them to live with each other. It's impossible for them to mature, to progress in society. The people, they can't go to school, they can't play sports, they can't involve themselves in economic stability, political stability, fixing their communities when there's bullets flying back and forth, whizzing past your head every day. So this is from the greatest harms of murder, is that it causes the people's hearts to be separated and split forever. And forgiveness, unfortunately, becomes a major sign of weakness. If you forgive, if you say enough is enough, like the brother that was crying at the janazah, it has to stop now. That was him, the father. But the younger brother, the older brother, says, man, F that. As soon as we done, ain't no it got to stop here right now. Nah. It's either on me, it's in the car. As soon as we done this janazah, I know exactly where them is at. And I'm going to take revenge. So he thinks that it's the end. He thinks that it's over, but in reality, we both know what? That's not the case. And from that is the feud. It's the faucet. Once you turn it on, the handle is stuck, and the water's going to keep pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring. And then the society is done. It's ruined. It's over. It's a cycle that won't stop. And the moment you think of stopping it, you'll be accused of being a traitor, dishonoring your family, let alone being a coward, let alone other names and other obscenities. The people that are going to call you, you obviously, you soft. You let them do that to your cousin, you ain't do nothing. You let them do that to your family member, you ain't say nothing, you ain't even shoot at them, you ain't do nothing. And unfortunately, we all know what's going to happen. Number two, another reason, another social harm of murder is cowardice. And we mentioned this in the khutbah earlier, about a low person, a weak person, a base person being in charge of the affairs of the people. And speaking about the affairs of the people. In most cases, 9 out of 10 people who commit murder are cowards. I'm not saying that it doesn't take any courage, and I'm not saying that there aren't people who don't kill people with courage. But the average person was either scared, he felt that he was inferior, or he was so scared that the people pushed him and forced him to do it. But deep down inside, he was scared. And we know that fear is one of the most powerful human emotions. That's why Allah gave it to the human being. And many people, if not most people, they mismanage their fear. They don't handle it properly. They become a victim to it, or sometimes they ignore fear. And there are times in which you're supposed to be scared, and that fear is sending you a message. You're supposed to be scared and run away. Whether it's your adrenaline, whether it's your goosebumps, whether it's the hair on your neck, whether your stomach feeling queasy and uncomfortable, your body is telling you, danger, danger, stay away, get away, don't go near. That natural instinct, and a part of your natural instinct is what? It's fear. So a person that ignores that says, I ain't scared. I'm not scared. And it's a good thing not to be scared. You should have courage. That's one of the greatest attributes of a successful leader. But there are times in which you're supposed to be scared. You're supposed to be a punk sometimes. And that being a punk will save your life. That will protect your deen. Because what cause are you fighting for? A noble cause, Islam, an honorable cause, or something that you want to live with for the rest of your life and regret? That depression, anxiety, that mental sickness. How many people turn themselves in after they commit murder? They keep seeing a person in their dreams. They keep having nightmares. They can't swallow. Damn, it's crazy what I just did. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ says, "La yazalu al-mu'minu fi fushatin min dinihi ma lam yusib daman haraman." He says, as a Muslim, a mu'min will always have his deen will be wide open for him. Fusha. He won't feel constrained. He won't feel pain as long as he stays away from sacred blood. You pour sacred blood, everything closes in on you. Don't take this from me because I'm not a killer. Take it from people who have done the act, and they'll tell you that it's very, very, very difficult to live and to go to sleep and to eat knowing what you did. Unless you totally turn the fitrah off. And obviously if you turn your fitrah off, then that's it, you're done. You're no different than those who are dead. Rather, you're practically walking dead man. And we know many stories of people like this. How many times did you kill? The person says, I lost count. I lost count in the 86, 90s, that's when I was counting. Now, it's just no big deal. The person doesn't have a soul anymore. The fitrah is gone. So what's important is that from the social harms of murder, is that it allows cowards to become champions. Someone who didn't kill out of courage, they didn't kill for the right reason, for the correct reason, they killed because they were scared. And now obviously in Philippines you got a body. Right or wrong? Yeah, your status is now what? You leveled up now. You know what I mean? And in actuality, that person who's leveled up in reality he's a what? He's a coward. He's scared. So now there are younger people now doing what to him? Looking up to him. Listening to what he has to say. What he has to teach them. He's now invalid. I can now talk about it because I did it. Even though when I did it, I was shaking. Even though I went home and I wet my pants. I was scared to death when I did it. And I only did it because I was scared. But now in front of those young people, weak-minded people, not saying if you're young and weak-minded, but young people and weak-minded people, I'm a killer. Yeah. I'm brave. I put in work, so on and so forth. So from the worst things to happen to society is what the Prophet ﷺ tells us. As a low base man, and from being low and base is being a coward. It isn't a noble characteristic. And most people who are tyrants, who are bullies, they're scaredy cats if you see them one-on-one. And they're extremely insecure and fragile. And one of the reasons why they push people around, throw people around, curse people, abuse people, slander people, hit people, is because they have to mask their fragile nature. It makes me feel good smacking people. It makes me feel tough seeing people run away, begging, asking me not to pull the trigger. It's a sickness. So this is something which tears the society apart when the corrupt people are in charge, when people who don't have the proper characteristics, when they're the leaders, when they're in charge, when ignorant people are in charge. The Prophet ﷺ, he tells us, they take ignorant people as their leaders, as the people who make the decisions, who make the policies. And the list goes on with regards to society. Number 3, gun violence, murder, is going to lead to the continuation of economic suffering. Why is the hood, why is it the way that it is? Why is the ghetto like it is? Why is it so poor? Why don't we have this? Why is this beat down? Why is this dirty? Why is this closed down? Why don't we have any job opportunities? Why such and such? Why is our education system like this? Why are our schools like that? Where is the money going? The people not working, people don't have money. What's the problem? What's the issue? One of the reasons behind that is murder. And one of the twins of murder is incarceration. And when you get incarcerated, what happens? More tax money, working, I don't need to work. There's no need to get a job. Or I've reformed myself, I've redeemed myself, I come home and I can't get a job. So therefore, it only makes sense to go back to what? Doing what I do best. I gotta eat, I gotta survive. And then guess what? The wheel turns again.
Yeah.
And that's the next generation of financial backwardsness, debt, and the list goes on. What's important is that there are countless harms with regards to one's spirit, one's soul, one's heart, committing murder, being involved with it, and there's social harms as well. Things that will afflict the Muslim and the non-Muslim alike. And that's something that we need to be mindful of with regards to the majority of most of us here in this masjid being black or African American, if you wish to use that term. And some of the ills that we suffer from in our society that were ills before people were even Muslim. You had this social problem. And the Christian black man has the same problems. And the Hebrew Israelite, the atheist, the agnostic, the Baptist, he shares the same problems that you share. Same social ills and diseases he suffers from. Does Islam provide a solution to those ills? Of course, we know that. We know that. But how are we addressing it and speaking about it and talking about it? And if you look at the Quran al-Kareem, you pay close attention, especially to the Meccan era, even in Medina, you find so many ayat were sent down for social problems. Verses that we recite to this very day were problems for Arabs. Things that when you read, you don't really get or understand. Why would a man even say this? How did they do this? But the Arabs, they did it. Allah sent down verses, legislation, prohibiting it, forbidding it, shaming it, condemning it, and we recite those verses to this very day. How common is divorce here in America, Philadelphia, in this masjid, in our communities? How common do people get divorced? In other societies too, other races, but we're talking about right here. How common or uncommon?
Common.
Very common. The Imam of the masjid, no doubt, from the important tools in his toolbox is dealing with talaq, family counseling. That's a fact. He may not have to know that much about salah and zakat more than the rulings of marriage and divorce, because it's extremely common. But if I challenge you right now, if you went to the Imam of this masjid or any masjid and asked him, when's the last time a man said to his wife, Anti alayya ka dhahri ummi? You and my mother's back are no different. I can't touch my mother in an intimate sexual way, nor am I going to touch you in an intimate sexual way. Ask the Imam, when's the last time a woman came to the office saying that? Ask him. Just ask him. What do you think he's going to say? Probably never. Yet still, that's mentioned what? In the Quran, in more than one place. And that's because that was a major social problems that the Arabs had, saying things that were false. The mothers are the one that gave birth to you, not the woman that you sleep with. Let alone oppression, wronging your wife, not being with her, etc., etc., etc. You guys get the point that I'm trying to make? Oppressing your orphans, abusing inheritance. Nah. And there's so many different social ills that Allah Azza wa Jalla spoke about and prohibited in the Quran, proving that society is supposed to take the deen, supposed to take the spiritual guidance and apply that to his spirit, first and foremost, and also apply that to his society. And from it is murder, gun violence, gangs, getting caught up. All the other stuff is known, losing your life, going to jail, blah, blah, blah. That's all known. Trying to scratch beneath the surface and look at it from a different aspect and from a different angle. So what's important is, it's nobody's fault, just one person. The leader and the led, they both have a responsibility and a duty. Men ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi. Change it with your hands, whoever sees it. And do not say it's not my duty, it's not my responsibility. Oh, Fulan is better than me, he's more knowledgeable than me. He knows, he'll speak about it. If you see evil, change it. If you see evil, speak out against it. And don't mask. If you're afraid or scared, don't try to justify it. And this is how the munkar becomes ma'ruf. The norm is because no one spoke about it when it first happened. No one took a stance against it. The brother crying at the janazah, it wasn't his son who he lost, so it was no big deal. He just gave him a hug, mashallah, subhanallah, and that's it. Versus me and you, we're going to go to the office together. We're gonna go do this together. We're gonna speak here to this politician together. We're gonna go to the imam together, etc. I'm gonna be in your corner and support you like it was my own son who was lost. And most people, they're selfish. The crime is only a crime when it pertains to their own personal selfish gains and interests. So the moment we keep thinking like this, we'll be afflicted. So it's upon us, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, to work together, leader, led, knowledgeable, layman, man, woman. Everybody has to work together to make the society a better and safer society. A better and safer society. And there lies no doubt from the things which will prevent a society from being better and safe: guns being shot day and night, bullets indiscriminately flying, passing, who isn't hitting the target and hitting someone, what? Who isn't from the target. And as far as what I mentioned with regards to the music industry and rappers, especially if you're older, your era was the 80s or the 90s, right? You lived through those times, the crack attack, that pandemic, all of that stuff, all of the crazy stuff. But one of the reasons why people will never ever get rid of murder and they'll never ever stifle it and do away with it is because they glorify it and they romanticize it. And they pick the bad guys. They pick the people that they want to be the bad guys. They make scapegoats. The rappers are the murderers and the people romanticizing murder, pushing murder, influencing the people to commit murder. And that to a large extent is true. But who influenced the rapper? Where did he get his name from? Who made criminals in the 20s and the 30s household names, celebrities, people who just murdered senselessly, robbed senselessly, indiscriminately? They were celebrities. They were famous. They were household names. People wanted their autographs. Okay, the police, the authorities, the politicians, they would say, we can't help that the people think like them, that they're popular. But you made a movie about them. Movies about them, plays about them, comic books about them, action figures about them. That person is a household name. If you Google it and research how many times has this character been portrayed, anybody, Scarface, off the top of my head, you'd be shocked. 50 different renditions of Scarface. Before black and white, color, HD, 4K, this actor, this aspect of the life, they glorify that criminal, that gangster. And then you wonder why some poor, weak person from the inner urban city says, I'm going to call myself and try to be like him. Obviously, you come down on a small fry. You come down on the little one, the weak one, lock him up, which is going to take years out of his life, mess him up mentally, physically, spiritually, mess his family up. He can't get a job because you're a rapper and you're rapping. Hollywood, the actors, Al Pacino, this one, that one, so on and so forth, they're actors. So the racism and the prejudice involved in the fabrics of this society is one of the causes, one of the reasons why it continues to happen. Until you make a stance against all types of murder, whether it's in a cartoon, whether it's in a movie, whether it's in a rap song, whether it's in a rap video. If a black person is talking about it, if an Italian person is talking about it, it's what? Fahisha. It's wrong. It's evil. Someone suffering, crying, and weeping, it has to come to a stop versus, oh, when the blacks do it, the Italians do it, oh, well, it's different, It's organized crime. It's clean. It's different, right? And obviously we don't have much time, we're going to stop, but you got to get the point I'm trying to make, is that people at best, they only take a partial stance against it. If they even take a what? If they say something about it and try to make a change. And oftentimes they look for the quickest, most convenient person to grab and say, you're the bad guy. You're the person talking about rap. They fall down on this person and they go home that night and they watch a movie and watch the guys just shoot people. Cartoons that the children were raised upon. Some of the most violent stuff you see is Bugs Bunny. People getting their heads blown off, blew up. That has no effect on a child's mind. That has no effect on what they want. It's just a cartoon, right? But the rap song is what? No, that's reality. This is a fake rapper. But that's a Grammy Award winning actor, even though we know he's not a killer and a gangster. You guys get the double standard that I'm trying to make? So most people who talk about it, they only talk about it partially. They pick and then choose. And unfortunately, many of us, we fall into that as well. We choose our bad guys as Muslims, who we want to talk about, who we want to warn against, what evil we hate. what wala and bara we want to practice, right? I don't like you, but I'm cool with him. And he does the same thing that you do. It's a problem. And as long as we have that double standard, that triple standard, that hypocritical convenience of cherry picking, the problem will remain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. I don't know if we have enough time for any questions. I don't mind taking a few if there are any. This is just a small snack, a part of a bigger, greater meal or banquet that has to be had on this topic. You guys get the idea, think about it, put the pieces together, which is khairan. Nah, Mahi.
What about the Muslims that like take threatening other Muslims lightly, like harming other Muslims?
Threatening a Muslim. That in itself is a big problem. And me personally, regardless of the ruling of that, but I'm just sharing my personal opinion, I have no respect for people like that. People that want to be rough and tough with the Muslims. Spitting, growling, with the Muslims. If you want to be tough, there's 100, 1,000 non-Muslims out there that you can be tough with. People that hate you, they hate the way you look, hate the way you talk, they hate your race, they hate your ethnicity, and they take pleasure in killing and spilling the blood of a Muslim. So if you want to be tough, then I say, yo, there's a whole line of people that you can go and be tough with. Why be tough with someone that shares your religion? Why are you being tough with somebody that you know is not supposed to fight you, can't fight you? And that it's a big possibility that the Muslim won't even defend himself because of the danger of bloodshed among Muslims. He'll just, suck it up, eat the loss, walk away. You know that. You read the same Quran, the same Hadiths. You know that spilling the Muslim's blood is from the greatest of sins. You know that. So therefore, I know it's a big possibility that you're not even going to retaliate or say anything. So that's a punk. That's a coward. It's not the sign of a strong man. Anyone who's just making threats, let alone that's unwise. If you're going to do it, do it. You never threaten somebody. You warn them. Yo, chill. You need to relax. I'm serious. I'm going to do this to you. Nah. I told you to stop. I gave you warning now. Bang. So wise people, they don't make threats. Strong people, they don't threaten people, let alone constantly, let alone it's your Muslim brother. And if you keep threatening your Muslim brother and presenting violence to him, it's a big possibility that the shaitan will make it seem fair to you. And the next thing you know, hop, skip, jump in. And that's what Allah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا. Don't go near zina. Don't even go near. يُشِكُ أَن يَقَعْ فِيهِ. Don't go near the sacred off grounds. Don't even step near it because it's a big possibility is that you'll get weak or even by mistake. And that's another discussion. How people lost their lives by playing with guns. By accident. So that's unfortunate. What's important is if you have a disagreement with a Muslim, try to handle it the right way, the correct way. Backbiting him, slandering him, threatening him physically, that's only going to mess you up and mess your deen up and your society, as we just explained. Wallahu a'lam.
Brothers, if y'all want to go and get some food, you have food outside already. All right, so we wanted to take a break before the salah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.